Hi there! Emily Midget back with you for this month's installment of Exploring with Emily. This month, I am doing a little mixing and matching with my mediums, pairing Distress Oxide blending with some Prismacolor shading to create a beautiful ethereal look using the oldie but goodie Mondo Hydrangea stamp set from Hutson. When working with Prismacolor pencils, I view it like I do Copic coloring. Choose a light, medium, and dark shade to get smooth blending and depth. I use a similar technique to my Copic blending as well, first laying down the lightest color where I want the most coverage, then a smaller amount of the medium shade, then the darkest shade, then working each of those into each other to create a smooth blend. One of the tools that I find most useful when working with Prismacolor pencils is their colorless blender tool. Unlike the Copic colorless blender, this pencil will actually blend your colors together, rather than remove the color like the Copic blender. When using a light hand with your Prismacolors, the coloring isn't quite as smooth as when you have many layers of color, and the colorless blender pencil helps to smooth that light layer out. One of my favorite attributes of the Distress Oxides is the smooth, almost velvety texture it creates when blended on plain white cardstock. It's the perfect canvas for adding pencil work. For this project, I began by blending Distress Oxides in shades of Peacock Feathers for the foliage and Shaded Lilac and Blueprint Sketch for the blooms themselves on a panel of white cardstock. I knew I wanted to use the Mondo Hydrangea set, so I laid that stamp on the cardstock approximately where I wanted it to be stamped to get an idea of where to blend which color. Then I removed the stamp set and blended accordingly. After blending, I stamped the images using Hero Art's Unicorn White pigment ink, adding flowers on the blue and lilac, leaves on the teal. To add the shading and details to the stamped image, I began by first adding lilac, the lightest shade, then imperial violet, the medium shade, over the top, finally adding the dioxazine purple hue, the darkest shade, over the top of all three. I only add color to the areas that I want to be darkest, and I leave plenty of blank space with just the oxide blending showing through. Adding each layer over the top of one another allows the colors to blend more smoothly, in my opinion. Once I have added all of the color to the petal, I use the colorless blender pencil to blend them together, pulling the edges of the pencil work out over the oxide ink. You may be wondering, what's the point of the blending beneath the pencil work? Well, one of the areas that I find most challenging when coloring flowers is the natural variation in color on the flower. Each flower has many different shades of the same color throughout the petals, and I struggle with getting some of that variation on my flowers when using just pencils or markers, because I can just use the same colors for each petal throughout. This can create a lack of dimension, making for a fairly flat image. Adding the pencil shading over the top of multiple blended colors takes some of the guesswork out of adding that variation and gives a more unique look to your flower. On most of my colored images, whether it is with markers, pencils, or watercolors, I like to add touches of dark gray, black, or navy to the deepest, most shadowed areas of the image. This addition of just a touch of that dark shade helps to indicate which areas of your image are behind another, which in this case is particularly useful because the lighter, brighter flowers would be on the top or the front of the hydrangea, while the shadowed, more subdued flowers are behind. That contrast of light and dark creates the depth on the image. Using a very light hand, I swipe just a few touches of the cool gray pencil on petals that are deeper within the flower. I stamped the leaves in the areas that I had blended the peacock feathers oxide ink so that I could use the same pencil technique. Add light, medium, and dark pencil to the areas that require the most depth, then blend the pencil out with the colorless blender, still allowing some of the oxide ink to show through to give that extra bit of interest and depth. After I'd colored the leaves with the 3 teal shades, I again go back in to add some dark gray to the center of each leaf to add even more dimension. I also add in a bit of white on the lighter areas to further enhance the contrast. Well, that's all for this project. I hope I've inspired you to combine your mediums. I've always believed that depth is achieved with lots of layers, and I've really enjoyed experimenting with multiple mediums. I hope you've enjoyed it too. To see more details on this project and the products used, check out the description or the coordinating blog post at ellenhutson.com. Thanks so much for watching, and have a marvelous day.